Hi, friends. This is Wendy Harrop, and welcome to the Say Yes to Yourself podcast. On the Say Yes to Yourself podcast, you'll hear stories from women just like us who are adding the practice of saying yes in their daily lives in big and small ways, and as a result, are experiencing the truth that everybody wins when you say yes to yourself. Saying yes to yourself is a graceful unfolding, an intentional becoming of the very best version of you. It is my hope that in these conversations, we are able to find our truth and be inspired and empowered to live our very best lives. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you, and I look forward to finding a bit of our own story in each other's. Hey, friend. Welcome back to the podcast. Happy Friday. I'm so happy to have you here. And I am so happy. I'm floating around in all my peony bliss. We are in such a beautiful time of year here at the Phineas Wright House. My arms are full of gorgeous blooms, and I am so looking forward to celebrating these beautiful flowers with my clients and with those attending the Summer Solstice White Party. I do have a few chairs left at this long table in my field that I would love to have you join me at. So the Summer Solstice White Party is Saturday, June 20th. There's a link in the show notes for all those delicious details, but it is dinner in my field under a big tent, and everyone's in white, and we make flower crowns out of my peonies, and it is dreamy and fabulous, and I love it so much. And I would love for you to be there too. Also, on my list of what I love is this podcast, and you, sweet listener. Thank you so much for sharing your space with me, for listening, for sharing the podcast. It means so much, and I really, really appreciate you. Today, we have the wonderful Rebecca Olson. She is an executive life coach, speaker, and host of the Ambitious and Balanced Working Moms podcast. She helps high-achieving working moms create sustainable work-life balance without sacrificing their career ambitions or family presence. Her approach blends practical strategy with mindset mastery, empowering women to redefine success and lead with confidence, both at work and at home. I know you are going to love her and get so much out of this wonderful conversation with Rebecca Olson. Rebecca, so this podcast is the most fun and fabulous thing of all the fun and fabulous things I do. And I am only available for what delights me. So it is a very high bar. And I can already tell that this is one of my favorite conversations.
Oh.
So thank you so much for being here. I'm very much looking forward to our time together.
I'm in for it. So I'm excited as well.
I love it. Isn't it fun when you meet someone and you are just already the vibrational match and you just go in like we're just catching up after,
as if we have met before, and we have not.
Oh my gosh, I love it so much. And I love that and I'm sure this happens for you as well. Like this happens a lot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When you meet your people,
Yes.
it just is like as if you've been best friends forever.
Yes.
I know.
Right. Like when you turn the radio station, the song is already playing.
You got it.
Here we are. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm so excited. So I would love to start by asking, how are you saying yes to yourself in this season?
So I'm thinking a bit about this question, and I actually had a moment where I said, am I going to answer this honestly? And I was like, of course I'm going to answer it honestly, Rebecca. I wouldn't not answer it, but I did have a moment where I was like, wow, that feels really vulnerable to say, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Awesome.
So 2025 was awful for me. It was a really terrible year. And I felt like I was in a deep, dark hole. I mean, it's the best way I can describe it. It felt heavy and hard at the back of my chest. And I would wake up with this like what felt like a cave going inside of me. I had never experienced anything like that before. And I think there could be lots of reasons why that was the case. I mean, I've explored some of those, but but by the end of the year, I decided to get some help. And beyond, like I'm a coach, so my
Right.
coaching tools were working for me, right? It was only doing so much, and I knew it was more than this. And so I decided I needed to get a therapist. I needed to talk to my doctor. I needed to figure out something hormonal. What is going on here? Anyway, I started on a very low dose of an antidepressant, which I've never done before.
Okay.
And it is
Congratulations.
wild to me. Thank you. It is wild to me how different I feel today. It hasn't been all that long.
Right.
I know when we're recording this is different when it's going to air, but it hasn't been that long. But I'm still waking up with this sense of, oh my gosh, I can't believe where I was at, 6 months ago. I didn't even realize how dark that was until I'm here today and I wake up with a smile on my face and perspective for the day and patience for myself. And so the mental health journey that, and I'm in the mental health world, but the mental health journey I'm on in a different way than I have been on ever really, is really something that has been so important for me today, and I'm 100% in for it.
Thank you. That is so generous of you. And I see you in that. And
Yeah.
when we're doing this work, we're doing our own inner work, but we're also helping clients with their things and raising young girls and
Yeah.
doing the 8,000 other things not on that list. And our bodies and our emotions are not responding the way that we are expecting
Have
them
known them
to.
to respond in the past. Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, excuse me. What the F is happening? Like,
Yeah.
get with the program. Do you see everything on the list, body? Like,
Yeah.
what,
And,
how?
and on some level, thank goodness I'm a coach because I think it could have been a lot worse.
Sure.
It could have been a lot worse. It wasn't in engaging in the things that I already know how to do that have been helpful to me did help on a certain
Right.
level. It just really wasn't enough. And it took a long time for me to decide this isn't working enough that I need it to. But if I didn't even have those tools, who knows where I would have been, in that
Right.
place. So
It
absolutely.
explains a lot about the people that are mad in the school pickup line. And in because this is happening.
I
And I
know.
think
It's
it's
true.
just this beautiful awareness when we hold space for ourselves
Yeah. Yeah.
of, okay, this is happening. I have tools and I'm going to show myself grace and I'm going to expand my
Yeah.
support system. And I'm also going to see differently what's happening around me
Yeah. Yeah.
and have grace for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I say that it feels vulnerable to say just because I know there's a stigma around taking antidepressants. People can hear that and think lots of different things. And I am here to say get the freaking help that you need.
Oh
Do
my gosh, who
what you need
cares
to
what
do.
anybody else thinks or says about anything?
No, that doesn't matter. I mean, but I think that I'm recognizing I want
Yeah.
to say it because I
Yes.
just want to say it as it is. And I've had, now a number of conversations with friends or whomever, and I could feel it sometimes, a little like, oh, she's being really vulnerable right now. She's being really honest. It's like, yes, let's be honest about what we need and getting the support that we need. Why did I wait 12 months? Why did I wish that I wouldn't have even done that. There was literally help at the other side that I didn't even realize was there. And I want everybody to get the help that they need, whether we're talking about support in that way or therapist or coaching or whatever. Like, why, when there's a solution, not go for the solution? Women, let's do it.
Why do you think that is?
I have a lot of different thoughts on this because I work with ambitious women. So I work with very type A driven women, and they pride themselves in that. I think this is true potentially across the board, and it's a sweeping generalization, but I know also for the women that I help and their personalities, it feels like you're failing when you ask for help. It just feels like you're failing. And so you will do anything at all costs
Mhm.
to figure it out on your own because we believe somewhere deep down that figuring it out on your own is better. It
I
makes you
know.
better. It makes you a better achiever. It makes you smarter. It makes you more whatever, right? Like I mean, if anybody listening, you hold back, you know, like step back for a moment and go, do you really believe that? Do you and or you probably hear it and you go, that's not true. You know, I don't think that's true. People should get help. But then I want you to think about the areas of life that you're stuck in and why aren't you getting help in those areas? And is it because you think that doing it on your own would be better?
Right? It's these subconscious narratives that are on repeat where, I mean, I had a belief that you'll learn this soon. My listeners know I'm a verbal processor. So I've worked through so much of my own
Yeah.
narrative that is not in service, my own shit
Yeah.
on this podcast because I'm sitting down, I'm having 5 hours of conversations
Mm.
with five different perspectives
Yeah.
once a week. And I get to fast track some of these things. But what one narrative that was on repeat for me was in 2025, finished a 3.5 year divorce process. And I have everything that I want. I have this big, beautiful house. I purchased another 30 acres neighboring
Mm.
me to restore the property line. It's like all of these big, beautiful yeses.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And
Sounds like a lot of work.
my narrative was, well, you're the one who wanted it. So
Oh.
you're the
Hmm.
one that has to do it, which obviously, when those words are outside of my
Yeah,
body,
of course.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah, yeah,
And they were completely running the show.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I love this podcast because it reminds me that that is actually not true. And there are so many of those stories.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that I think you're saying something that's true that I'm thinking about now, which is that I think another reason why it is so hard for women to get help, and I would say, and actually I would say this is probably truer of my narrative and why it took a while, which is that saying it out loud means it is true. So we keep it inside. We keep those narratives inside. We stuff them down because we don't want to explore them. We're not ready to explore them for whatever reason. They're scary
Oh,
because of the
precious.
implications, because we then tell ourselves other stories about it, right? And so I remember it was a conversation with my mom actually. I called her to talk about what was going on and like a really she could tell obviously that things were going on, but I talked about it in a really honest way about starting therapy and needing some support and I just bawled because it was really the first time I was saying out loud to someone that I love, you know, I'm not well and I don't know what to do about it. And so that type of honesty and vulnerability with ourselves is very, very challenging. And so until someone is willing, it's why people cry on calls with me all the time, right? It's because it's like the first time they're ever being honest,
Exactly.
not with me, but with themselves. You know, they're saying
Exactly.
something that has been their truth for a while. And now we actually get to examine it when it's outside of your body. Thank goodness, you know, which is get it out. Might as well. But I think that that's a big one. It was certainly for me.
Yes. What I have found is those things that we are afraid to voice. It's been my experience that that fear comes from, well, if it's out, it will completely crush me. And it's going to be too big and I don't even know what's going to happen. I can hardly
Or
manage
it's
it.
unfixable, which I
Right.
think is maybe even worse. It's like I'm going to put it out there and then I'm going to find out that I can't do anything about it. And then I would
Exactly.
rather keep it inside and stuff it down and just deal with it than have some sort of truth that I put it out there and then I'm unfixable. That would be even worse.
Right. And now people know it.
Yeah, now people
And
know
that,
it.
right, like all of these
Yeah,
things, it's going to be too big. But what I have found is that when I voice it, it loses its power.
of course it
It
does. Yeah,
gets smaller. It's like that
yeah,
balloon that
yeah, yeah.
just
And
flies
you hear
around.
yourself say it just like you did a moment ago, and you're like, "That's ridiculous." Come on now. You
Exactly.
know, we
Exactly.
have our higher brain can hear it and have a completely different perspective of it, and almost always offer, you know, a different way of thinking about it that's more supportive to us, right?
Right. And there's so much beauty in the work that you do. The work that I do is just holding space for women who are holding space for themselves.
Yeah.
So I have a bed and breakfast in New England on a small flower farm,
Mm,
and I host women. Like they're just coming here. They want to see the peonies, or it just sounds
I love that.
dreamy to do
Yeah.
this every single time. It doesn't matter what they think they're coming here for. Every single time, it's just an exhale because
Hmm.
I just want to hear what's in their heart. And there's
Yeah.
nothing that they're going to say that I'm going to think
Yeah.
is too big. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
get it out. And the thing that happens to our dreams as well, the desires and the things that we want, sometimes we keep them inside because we're afraid if they're outside of our body, someone else will crush them.
Mm,
And what happens is the opposite when we let those dreams out, when, come here, I'll put some water and sunshine on them and they grow, they get bigger when they're
mm,
shared. So the
hmm.
things that we're keeping in because we think are going to crush us lose their power. The
Yep.
things we're keeping in because we think someone else is going to crush them get bigger.
Yep.
So it's just this beautiful opportunity to say,
Yeah.
oh, okay, well, I don't think that's going to work for me. And then I would say, well, what if it did?
Yeah.
What what if it did
What if
work?
it did? What if it surprised us?
Yeah, what would that look like?
How fun would that be?
So fun.
Yeah, so fun. I
So
love
fun.
it.
Yes, I'm interested to know how this is working for you, receiving support.
Yeah.
I for a long time would fill my journal with how much I need support and I need
Mm,
some help and all the things. And then I recognized ways that I was asking for help and denying help at the same time.
interesting.
So, and because the help wasn't what I was asking for,
Oh,
right?
right.
So I'm like, I need whatever, someone to do social media for me. But I'm at the grocery store and someone's offering to bag my groceries or take something to the car. I'm like, no,
Ooh,
no, no,
that's
I got it.
interesting.
No,
Yeah,
no, no.
yeah.
So I was noticing where
Yeah.
I was.
Closing yourself off to support. Fascinating.
Right,
Yeah.
because we can practice it in all of these ways. It doesn't just have to only come in the form that what we think is going to solve all the problems.
Right, right. That's interesting. I haven't really connected that before. And I would say it's true, in literally first time reflecting that right now I would say there's a lot of very interesting things coming my way that didn't feel somewhat magical in how they're approaching me, right? Like they're not necessarily huge things yet, but they're like little opportunities, doors, possibilities, just little things. And maybe I'm not ready for it, or maybe it's leading to the big one on some level, but I'm saying yes to all of these little things that are in front of me and just going, I don't know where this is going to go, maybe, and I'd probably put it all in this bucket of sort of support, or at least it's support from God, at
Right,
a minimum.
totally. Yeah.
So I would say that that's true. I guess as I've reflected a little bit on that, I've put that into like my mind is clearer to see those moments. I mean, I believe that God is giving us these moments always, and we either are able to receive it or see it or not. That's it, right? It's not as if he went anywhere, we went somewhere. And
Exactly.
so the now I'm just in a perspective that my eyes are open, I'm open to receiving it, I'm clear enough in my heart to be able to engage in it, to not have fear around it or whatever it is, right? And so that's how I've seen it, at least recently. But I also like the idea that it's coming from this idea of support too. I think that there's an angle of that I could definitely see.
It's beautiful. I mean, I think that for me, that asking for help was also about my relationship with control, my
Or
relationship with surrender, my
yeah,
relationship with support. It's like, yes, I need help and I need you to do it exactly the way I would do it or better because
yeah,
otherwise, not helpful.
right.
So I'm setting myself up already to be disappointed as if to validate the need for the help
Yeah.
that I'm asking. I mean, it's just ridiculous waste of time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, my mind feels clearer. That's been one of the big things. I feel like a fog lifted from my mind. I was stuck under like confusion on what I should do, it's like what I should prioritize, what I should do, how I should function, how I should run my business, like what I should be engaging in. Nothing felt clear under this fog that
Mm,
I was living in, and that the fog is lifted. And so all of a sudden, as the opportunities are there, all of a sudden I have an ability to like think about it, with perspective and make decisions that feel, good and aligned for me and for my business or for life or whatever it might
right.
be.
And I love how you're talking about this just following the breadcrumbs and what feels like the next logical
Yeah.
step. And like,
Yeah.
oh, that yes, sounds good. Oh, this person's going to be on the podcast. Okay, that sounds fun. Oh, this
Yep. You got
invitation
it.
is here. Okay,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
yes, I'd love to go to this International Women's Day dinner and then know that it's that yes just gets me at the table where my next yes is sitting, which
Absolutely.
then gets me in the room where my next yes is,
Yep.
and that
Yep.
it's all knowing that we are being guided to what's next
Mm.
is such a
Yeah.
relief. And there's so much beauty and peace in that I'm recently like I've been following the breadcrumbs
Yeah.
for a while toward a beautiful dream of having a property in France that I can host retreats at.
Oh, I
And
love it.
I know it's so fun. So I've just been following the breadcrumbs. And at the time this airs, I will have just gotten the keys
Oh
to
my
the
goodness.
fabulous chateau that my friend and business partner have purchased. And it's as we've been reflecting on the whole process and being there at the beginning of the year to see it and feel it and
Yeah.
sign papers and all of those things. It really, although it's been on my board for a long time, it really felt like the next logical step.
Mm.
It
Mm.
was as if
Yeah.
I've been following these breadcrumbs and now all of a sudden I have a loaf of bread in my lap.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's with this curiosity, this discovery, this surprise
Mhm.
and delight, and aligned action,
Yes.
momentum,
Yep.
inspired action to lead me to what feels right next.
Yeah.
But it's a windy path at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I actually would describe something very similar in a business decision that I've recently made. It just felt like the next logical step. I've said that to a number of people. I don't it just obviously I was going to do that. It just made sense, right? And that I think that we can get so bogged down in needing to know the how. We need to know how it's
Exactly.
all going to come together and what that end result is going to be and how it all ladders up to a bigger picture of some kind.
How long
You
it's
know,
going to take.
how long it's going to take. God never gives us the whole picture. It's
Nope.
not the way it works. And
That's right.
so, whether you believe in God or not, we believe on some level magic that happens in this universe where it is always serving us and it is always giving us opportunity. This is where the magic is, right? You say yes to one thing and it leads to another thing. It isn't magical. However, it feels that way on some level. And when we get to embrace that, it's going to feel like it's going to feel scary a little bit, right? But I'm not saying that, but it's going to feel aligned all along the way. That's how you know. That's the certainty that we are being given, from God in this process. And so it's so beautiful. Yeah.
It is. It is. And it is based on this practice of alignment to know sometimes we want the whole picture because we want to be able to show someone who's asking us, what exactly are you doing over there?
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you asked because I have this 27-step plan and how it's all going to roll out.
Mhm.
And that the how is not our responsibility.
Hmm.
Knowing the what we want and why we want it,
Yeah.
and then moving toward what feels the same way as what we want and why we want it, it gets us farther along that path. And like you said, it is the logical next step.
Yeah. Yeah. It's such a beautiful thing how these things come together when we're taking that next step, and really walking in alignment. That my word of the year is unboxed. It just
Gorgeous,
came to me recently, and
gorgeous.
it's just such a beautiful word. And I said that a lot to people. I feel like I'm in a box. I feel very trapped. That was a lot of how I described the year last year and so forth. And so it made sense that this word came out of me. But as I've been thinking about it, one of the really key points of unboxing is, and I've wrote this down as one of my points, is whenever my brain wants to know how, I redirect it to why or what.
Great.
I don't need to know the how. That's where I box myself in trying to know the how. How is this going to work? How am I going to make this happen? Whenever I say how a lot and I don't even realize it, and my job in the unboxing process is to move from how to why or what. Why is this important to me? And what do I know about moving forward, even if I don't know the how? So those are my questions. Those are my two questions I'm leaning into as I unbox over
I
the course of
love
this whole
it.
year. So
The how, the when, the who, and the
those
where,
things they don't matter.
those that is on God's to-do list.
Yeah, not mine.
That's
Yep.
right. And what a relief.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank goodness.
Oh my gosh.
Thank
I'm so
goodness.
grateful. I'm
Yeah.
so grateful. So for me, that leaning into that, practicing alignment, cementing that certainty, that comes to me in a morning practice
Hmm.
that I'm completely committed to. How does that work out for you? How are you implementing this beautiful way of
Yeah.
living?
I also have a morning practice as well that I'm fairly consistent at. And so I tend to wake up before the kids are up and have my cup of tea with my husband next to me, and we both kind of have our journals out. And so it could be a level of that. That doesn't always happen. Today I happened to get up late and my husband he left early, and I looked at the clock and went, "Oh crap." It is. We got to be at school in 45 minutes, and my kids are up early. I walked out, the house was silent, meaning they hadn't gotten up yet. And I was like, oh no, this is going to be a morning if my kids aren't even up. Anyway, so didn't get it in today, but oftentimes that's how I do it. But I will sit in the middle of my day, and when I feel like I need a little space to think, I think by writing. Obviously, there's a lot of science behind that as well in terms of getting pen to paper. I I'm a Jesus follower. I go to church. I get a lot of inspiration and divine connection there. I listen to a lot of music that connects to my soul. And I just build a lot of awareness and space for that. I feel like I'm in a constant state of like breath prayer all day. Thank you. It's everything from gratitude to, all right, what's next, to just simple ways. I walk past my kid's room and I'll say a little prayer over them. It's in this constant state of recognizing that there is something at work at the divine level all of the time. And I want to bring my consciousness to that as much as I possibly can.
Absolutely. Where would you have me do? Where would you have me go?
Yeah.
What would you have me say? And to whom would you have me say it?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love it. Now, we started talking a little bit before we hit record about how this is impacting your parenting.
Yes. Yes. So I have an 11-year-old going on 15, 16 years old, it feels like, a daughter. And I know you do too. So we're in a very similar stage here. And so I I've been reading a book I was just telling you about called Untangled, and I highly recommend it to anyone that has an about 11 or 10, 11, 12-year-old daughter. This is like the time to read it. And it really talks about the various stages that girls go through from adolescence to adulthood, really specific to girls. And one of the end chapter questions is after they've kind of talked about a stage is when to panic. And
Oh,
they're trying to help you see like lots of things are normal that you I know don't feel are normal, but here's when you should panic. And
right.
so or
But
go
that's
get
so
help, you know.
helpful.
It
Right.
is really helpful. It actually does. It settles me down a little bit. I like read it and I'm like, oh no, my daughter's not in any of that. So, okay,
Right.
we're okay right now,
Yeah.
you know. But one of the things that's coming up for me as I'm reading this book very slowly and I'm just kind of digesting it a little bit is how I'm sad about as we're losing, you know, coming out of the stage of adolescence and real being a kid and I don't think I've really thought much about that yet. I haven't really reflected on that, but it makes me sad and how I'm trying, you know, there's elements of what frustrates her and what becomes our tension is when I'm trying to latch on to a kid behavior that I just adored and I want back so much. And she's pushing away from that, obviously, because she's changing and she should. And that actually, I've recognized that that's a point of tension for us, right? When I just want her to be who she was a couple of years ago and like my little girl. And she's not anymore. And I need to mourn that. And I think I'm gonna mourn that more than I'm gonna mourn my son growing up. I'm gonna be honest. Like there's something about her and being a parent to a daughter that I think is gonna hit me a bit differently. I also think it's going to be a little bit more challenging, but so
Right.
anyway, I'm just in the beginnings of starting to reflect on how that is affecting me at this point and needing to give some space to like really think about that.
Right. Thank you for sharing that and for reminding me of that book as well. It was recommended many years ago, and I thought, oh, I'm never going to need this. Because
Well,
it
yeah,
is, it's
I
surprising. And
know.
there's so much that I want her to know. I'm a much older mother than you, and it took a really long time to get her here. And so there's something about I don't know, that just makes me feel like everything is going to take 24 years, so
Mm,
including
yeah.
each year of her life, but
Mm,
that's not
yeah.
how it
Yeah.
happens. And
Right.
there's so much about my own personal and spiritual development in the past 6 years that mirrors what she's doing now.
Mm,
And I can soothe myself
mhm.
in knowing, yeah, my behavior, I broke some social contracts
Mm,
and it was appropriate.
mm,
And I trust that the same God that's in me is in her and is leading her to
yeah.
her highest and best. And I'm not God.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, there is a lot of release that I've had to go through over the last few years, and well, I can only imagine we'll continue to go through where I just I don't know. I don't know how she's going to turn out, who she's going to turn out to be, what she's going to do, and I trust that God is at work in her. It's all going to work out. I think about how when I was a kid and some of the things that I remember about myself in 11, 12, 13, middle schoolish age, uh, those things I don't do those things anymore. You know, I'm
Right.
not that human being anymore. So obviously she's not going to be. And God is working in her just as he's working in me. And I get to be a conduit. That's my job. And I want to do that to the best of my ability. But there's just so much trust in this, I think in this next stage, so much trust that I have to put into God working through her and in me to be the parent she needs at the moment.
Yeah, and being committed to your work and
Yeah.
your alignment and what God is calling you to be, and knowing that that is the best example that I can show to her
Yeah. Yeah.
in her own journey. And I wonder also, like, did our moms have these same conversations with their friends? Like, were they
I don't know. I don't think so.
mindful or freaking out? I don't think so either, but I
I
don't
don't think
know.
so either. But you know, my parents were in a very different stage at that point and separating and doing all sorts of things. And so I mean Yeah, my memories of that time are few and far between
Right. I feel
of
like
some
they
of that.
felt really solo. Like when I think back, I really only know what I did for me. I
Yeah.
don't remember interactions of other adults in my life.
Yeah. Yeah. It is interesting, actually. It's been interesting in therapy because we've been talking a lot about, my
Sure.
past, my childhood and some of that. And yeah, there is this absence of memory of some things during some of those years that is fascinating to me on some of that level. And and we are, I mean, research shows that this generation of parents is the most involved parent generation ever. We literally, in terms of minutes, we spend more minutes with our children, engaged with our children, than any other generation before us in terms of parents. And we feel like we're failing our kids more than any other generation. We spend the most time with them and we feel like we're failing them. Isn't that fascinating?
That's super
I
fascinating. What
know.
do you think about that?
I mean, I think that we are a a generation that hasn't defined what we think the actual expectations of successful parenting is, and nor have we decided what enough means for us. And it's an both of these things, success and enoughness, are kind of an ever changing morphous kind of belief. And it's like we reject our parents and our grandparents versions of those words, and we are in such a fast growing digital age that it feels like those definitions sort of have to change and morphous anyway, just based on society. But then what happens is, if we don't actually put words to any of that for ourselves, not even as a generation, but just for you as a parent, how do you want to define being a good parent? How do you want to define enough time spent with your kids? How do you want to define that? If you don't put words to that, then the finish line is always going to be move forward, right? Your brain is always going to tell you that it should be more, or it should be different, or it should be like the person you saw on social media. Always. That's how your brain is designed. And so we have to spend some time putting words to that. And I think we're just a generation that's had a hard time giving some finality to that on some level. I think we pride ourselves in some of that openness that is has its wonderful qualities to it, but also I think this is the side of it that doesn't serve us a whole lot.
Right. And I think it comes back to the beginning of our conversation as well about our relationship with support and asking for help
Yes.
and
Yep.
identifying that we're past capacity.
Yeah. 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 Or being willing to be called out. We're a generation that isn't willing to take criticism from wiser people above us in a way that other generations did, right? Like we were more independent than any other generation of parents. And so that it there's a cocktail that's not necessarily very helpful to us, in that we have to work through. It is the clarity process of decide whether we're talking about parenting, or I'm an expert in work-life balance. It's what I teach. Whether we're talking about work-life balance or parenting or any of these things, putting words to how you decide what success means for you in whatever subject we're talking about, and what that finish line is, has to be the starting point. Otherwise, your brain has no clue if you've ever arrived or not. And it has
Right.
no clue if you're even going in the right direction. And
Right.
so we get in circles otherwise, right? So the
Sure.
clarity process is really important.
Yes, and I love your reminder about your specialty in work-life balance, because so many times in our work, there are different success points, or, here's our goal for the year, or whatever what's expected from our team and from, and, all of these different things are more identified in that space
Yeah.
and can be less identified in the life space, which then has us over
Yeah.
functioning and
Yep.
overcompensating with action,
Yeah.
what we have not done energetically, and just in
Yeah.
identifying what those things are. So then there's that chaotic internal
Yeah.
thought system that is running the show.
It's not helpful to us, right? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about a job, a workplace that has a very clear rubric on how you're going to be, what your performance review is going to be, right? It literally, the rubric is spelled out for you what 5 means and 4 means and 3 means and what the benchmarks are in that. At any time during the year, you could go to that, you could see how you are measuring up, right? You know what they're looking for if you want to achieve a 5 out of 5 on your performance review, right? We get to create the same rubric for ourselves in our life. And it's harder because there's no right or wrong to it. And when things are that subjective, we can get stuck in that on some level. We don't have a benchmark to go to, right? However, we just get to decide. But if you leave no rubric, and I bet all of us have been a part of a job that had no rubric, and so you come to your performance review kind of going, I don't really know what they're going to say and how I'm doing. Let's just hope. It brings about an immense amount of anxiety. And even if you got a great performance review, you still usually leave going, yeah, I don't know. I felt like I could have done better because there was nothing that told you should what the benchmark was, right?
Right.
And so we don't want to put ourselves in that type of environment in our life either, right? We want to build for ourselves our own version of a rubric that our brain gets a very clear picture of what we want to be focusing on and what we value and what our priorities are and what success means to us, so that at any given time we can make decisions that are aligned to that. Decisions get easier, we feel better, we feel more satisfied, we feel like we have a plan. Whenever we have a
Right.
plan, it feels better to our nervous system, right? And all of the things that make it better.
I love that. Yes, to all of it.
Yeah.
How would you suggest we create
Yeah.
a plan? Like, does it make sense to, chunk out, like, okay, this is my home life. What would be something I want to accomplish with regard to, my relationship with my daughter and
Yeah.
my own health goals. And, we did these mind mapping practices at the beginning of the year of how can I
Yeah.
implement my word of the year, which is legacy, into each of these buckets.
Sure.
So
Sure.
then I know that the decisions I'm making are for not only the woman that I am in this moment who might be looking for some form of relief, but is this also a decision that's a vote for the woman I'm becoming?
Mm-hmm.
That's how I'm using legacy in all of those buckets. But
Yeah.
is there a practice that you can suggest that we can create this rubric that
Mm-hmm.
gives us a break, just in our own mental awareness?
Yeah, I want to highlight one of the things you said, which I mean I think the buckets are important, but all of the buckets were laddering up to something bigger, which was the word legacy for you as you described that, right? And so I think sometimes when we try to separate out, compartmentalize on some level all of these various areas of life, which it's important to get to that point where you do think about them separately, but having the overarching thing is also really important, right? Because then you know all of these things are interconnected, and you have some sense of how to even think about success within all of these buckets that feel aligned, right? So coming up with the overarching piece of that, I think, is really important. And for me and my clients, I walk them through getting clear on a compass. Like, that's the word I use. We're going to develop a compass together. And for a lot of women, they've never developed it. They've never thought about these things. But even if
Right.
you have, when you become a mom and in any season of life, ultimately, it's a time to recreate that compass, because ultimately
Sure.
things shift within
Yeah.
that, right? And so the three exercises that I walk my clients through are your values. And another way of saying that, those are just the things that are most important to you as you're making decisions in life. This is like your kind of subconscious checklist of how you kind of view things, right? So we put some language to that. Your identity, which is how you want to show up in this world, like sort of the role, not the roles. It's not like mom, daughter, worker, parent, whatever, but sort of the roles that you want to play, leader, that type of language that we want to come up with that are your top five kind of roles that you want to play. That's your identity, and then your purpose, and why are you here on this earth, right? And those words then become this overarching kind of theme of like, this is who I am. And now that I know who I am, I get to decide how I want to show up now in all of these different areas of life: your work, your home, your community, your marriage, all of the various things. And now knowing that this is who I am, and maybe for some people, it's even helpful to go, this is who I'm not. If I'm this person, then I'm not this person, right? Because some brains work better that way. We want to be everything. It's like, no, no, I'm this, I'm not this. And that just again helps us understand what success means to us. Now we get to start looking at different areas of life and starting to say, okay, based on who I am, how do I want to show up, and what really matters to me in the work that I'm doing, and what does success mean to me in this zone of my life, and ultimately what does it look like as a whole, as I look
Right.
as I look across all of it, right? When I because I work with working moms as I teach work life balance, I like to remind them that your goals before motherhood were very singularly focused. They were on having a great career and making an impact in your career. Now they are not. They are also about being an amazing parent. And what that means is that you think about your life, you really can't segment it out, because what happens is if you focus in one area of life and you feel like you have to sacrifice your family in order to have the career, you're going to feel like you're failing no matter what. And if you are, bolstering up your family time and you're really giving it all, but you've deprioritized your career, you're also going to feel like you're failing because you feel like you should be contributing more to this world. And so both have to cross the finish line at the same time. So we need to think about a much more holistic way of what success means, what balance means. We want it to include all the areas of life, because that's really how we're going to feel the most successful in at the end of the day, ultimately.
Yes. And to know that they're fluctuating,
Yeah, there's definitely a bit of fluctuation.
right? They have to. And
Yeah,
I can't have 14 buckets and then have the list of how I'm going to show up 100% in
yeah.
each bucket, because that means I'm now 14 people, which
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not, which is a great reminder
Yeah.
also.
Yep. Yep.
So then
Absolutely.
I think that's so beautiful the way that you described that process, because we can also, as a part of that overarching um, theme of what we want and why we want it, how we want to feel, and then how do I feel unboxed today in
Yeah.
this area that is in my life, and how do I feel unboxed here, and what decision I want to be a helper, I want to be in contribution, and it's a no for me today for whatever this person is asking for.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes our yes and our no so much easier.
It's a living document.
Yes, absolutely. It makes us all of the opportunities that are being presented to us. We now have a very clear filter, a rubric to go through that says, does this make sense with who I am and what my focus is right now, or does it? Or it doesn't, right? And if it doesn't, it's a simple no, not necessarily an easy no, but it's a simple no. But now we have all of the reasons behind it. Like logically,
Exactly.
it makes sense to us. Here's why I'm saying no,
Right?
because I'm choosing this instead, right?
That's right. And we don't need to share the
Not
reason
to
why
give
we
context
said
ever.
no, and we don't have to validate
Yeah,
that no by
yeah,
having that other person say, oh my gosh, you're right. You absolutely cannot do this for me. No,
right.
it is being true to ourselves. We've done the work. We've taken the time to create this beautiful visual of what we're saying is important to us.
Yeah,
And that gets to be the grid when we get the request to do an extra school pickup, or do something extra at work, or go on a trip, or whatever it is.
yeah.
We really get to use the resource that we created to help us not feel like we're failing at the end of it.
It helps us not have regret. That's probably the number one thing that women come to me, and there's this fear of regret. There's this fear that I'm not giving enough to my kids and I'm going to regret that, or there's this fear that I'm not gonna give everything into this path of my career that I want to go all into, and they're gonna regret that, right? When you give yourself, the container to really think about the things that matter to you, put some language to it, have that overarching vision of success for you, then you literally leave no room for regret, because every decision now has a purpose, and you can make a direct connection between its reasoning on why you're saying yes to it or why you're saying no to it. And whenever we have clear reasoning, we don't regret. Right? So
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay. I could talk to you all day
I
long.
know this has been so
It's
fun.
my favorite. I love it. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Please tell
yes,
everyone where they can find and follow you, how they can work with you, listen to the podcast, all the bits.
yes. Yeah, so podcast, great place to find me. That is Ambitious and Balanced Working Moms. So you can, all of the things that we're talking about here, I just continue that on as we talk about sustainable work-life balance in that particular podcast. And I also am just starting to enroll people into my next group coaching program. That's my container of learning this process of work-life balance. So that group is starting up in August, but we are filling it now. And so if you are interested in learning more about how to create sustainable work-life balance, looking for some support, you can go to my website, which is RebeccaOlsonCoaching.com, and then the group is /ambitious and balanced. I'm also super active on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can find me in all those places too.
Fantastic. We will link everything down in the show notes, but thank you so much, Rebecca. I loved this conversation.
Me as well. Thanks for having me, Wendy.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. As always, any links or notes mentioned can be found at phineaswrighthouse.com in the podcast section of our site or in the show notes below. And if you haven't connected with me personally, come find me on Instagram at Phineas Wright House and let me know you listened to this episode. I'd love to get to know you. Thank you for sharing this time with me. I know your days are full, and I'm really grateful that you chose to spend some of your precious time right here. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any of these delightful conversations. I'll see you next week.